So welcome to our Human Services Smart Living webinar, free accessibility features and apps for iPhone, iPad, Android phone, Samsung, all of the above devices we'll be talking about today. We'll start with introductions, Travis.
Hi, so my name's Travis Fim. I've worked here at our Human Services going on almost 10 years now. I am a certified enabling technology integration specialist through Shift. And for those of you who may be unfamiliar with our Human Services, who we are and what we do, I'll give sort of a brief rundown. So we are an intellectual disability service provider in the western side of the state. We service approximately 11 to 12 counties on the western side of the state with our traditional services. However, with our technology services, such as assistive enabling technology, remote supports, sort of across the gamut, we do support, the entire state there. So we offer services such as residential services, employment services, home and community habilitation, and then what Diana and I do is we offer technology services. So we can provide assessments, consultations, trainings, and really matching people to find the technology that's going to help them achieve an everyday life. And I'll go ahead and pass it back over to Diana to do a brief intro of herself here.
Thanks very much. Again, welcome everyone this afternoon. I'm Diana Petschauer. I'm a RESNA certified assistive technology professional working with our Human Services Smart Living, our assistive and enabling tech program, and hand in hand with Travis, enabling technology integration specialist, as well as our IT team, and really everyone at our Human Services who plays a role in providing the technology to support all of the individuals that we serve. I've been working in the field of assistive technology and accessibility for over 25 years now in various capacities and environments, helping individuals of all ages with disabilities, from very young children through aging adults, use technology to be independent, successful, and have great quality of life, whether it be at home or out in the community, in the workplace environment, in school, transition, and really being able to use technology either to build upon a strength or to bridge a gap where there might be a challenge or something difficult to do due to a disability, or sometimes it might also be a medical condition or need as well. And as Travis mentioned, we do provide services to everyone that receives services through our Human Services, but we also are an official assistive technology provider in the state of Pennsylvania. So anyone throughout the state of Pennsylvania can be referred, whether through an SC, a family member referring themselves for assistive technology services such as assessments, consultation, recommendations, training. We do guide individuals through funding options, whether it be waiver funding, private pay, grants and scholarships, other types of funding. And we also help individuals with being able to get demonstrations or loans, and any of those types of things that may be associated with the assistive technology services. And I'm multitasking here as I'm stopping to share my screen, and just want to make sure that all of you understand that as we get going here with our demonstrations, please feel free, if you have questions, to put them into the chat. I'm going to be starting off by sharing my iPad screen and going into the accessibility features, some of them today, and apps. And then I'll be handing it over to Travis, who will be demonstrating some of the accessibility features for Android devices. And you will receive this recording as well as the handout. I meant to bring up the handout when I was sharing my screen, but I'm going to start sharing the iPad, so I'll bring that up at the end. So you'll receive a handout with all of the apps and accessibility features and links that we're showing today, plus more, because we certainly won't be able to get to all of them. This will just be a nice beginner introduction to the accessibility features and apps. So I am going to just stop my video here because I'm going to start sharing my iPad. Interesting enough, once I start sharing my screen on the iPad, the main lock screen does not show because I'm sharing my screen, which is a little bit unfortunate because one of the things that I really wanted to show you is that my main lock screen is also a very dark black background. This is something that I set in the settings. And I choose a very large clock. So for some of us, we like to know what the day and the time of the day is right away. And you can choose that right in the settings, the general settings of an iPad or iPhone. You can have a very large clock with high contrast letters, and also some of your main alerts like medication reminders or appointment reminders on that lock screen if you choose. So that's something that we help folks with sometimes as well. On my main screen, my home screen here of apps, I like to point out that you can use what's called widgets based in the regular settings or the accessibility settings to have some of the main contacts that you might want to call often right on the main screen. And this is something that we like to help folks do if we are helping them use their device that they already have, whether it's a tablet or a phone, because sometimes going to the contacts and sifting through a lot of contacts sometimes could be confusing, or maybe just too much to do. So having those quick contacts on your main screen, maybe a family member, maybe the doctor, any of those things, it can be 3, it can be 4, it can be a handful, but it's nice to know that instead of having to go into your contacts or your phone, you can have them right on the main screen to call or to message. Some of the other things that I chose as I go into the settings is larger icons and that dark background. Certainly, a lot of us just like to have pictures of our kids or our grandkids or family members or loved ones on our screen or pretty backgrounds, and that's nice. But visually, sometimes it feels less cluttered and less straining on our eyes and cognitively if we reduce the amount of apps. So I have a lot of apps simply because I want to show some of them to you all today. I could have 3 apps on my main screen, 2 apps, 5. It's very customizable. And sometimes just reducing the amount of what's on the main screen can really help someone focus on the immediate things that they need as well, especially when we think about some of the older folks that might not be used to using a smartphone or just someone who's new to using a smartphone in general. I am going to go into my settings now, which is the gear icon. Now you'll see, because I'm on an iPad, on the left-hand side, I have a smaller menu here that I can use my finger to scroll up and down to go through. And on the right-hand side, the second part of that menu, I'm already tapped on accessibility. I could tap on general. I could also scroll down and tap on wallpaper. And this is where I set that dark wallpaper on the background. It may be where you choose to put a particular color or a picture as well. I'm going to scroll back up, going slowly, hopefully not to make anyone dizzy. And I'm going to tap back on accessibility. Now, again, there are so many accessibility features that are built into the devices that we have every day that if we went or wanted to go in depth, it could take hours, even days. I've done week-long conferences and webinars and workshops on just the accessibility features. So we want to give a brief overview to let folks know that these accessibility features exist, where to find them, and highlight a few of them. It's certainly not going to be an exhaustive demonstration today, but we do want you to know that there's really a lot built into your devices that you already have access to before adding any apps or anything else for free. And over the past few years, Apple, Google, Microsoft, Android, they've all competed to make these accessibility features readily available and built in so that you don't have to buy a $500 app or $2,000 software, which is phenomenal. And you can start using these immediately to provide some immediate access, whether it's for yourself or someone that you support or that you know would benefit. At the top, you can see one of the first sections in the accessibility settings on the iPad is vision. And VoiceOver is at the top. Many of you may have heard of VoiceOver. This is a screen reader. Oftentimes, the individuals who are blind or have low vision or legal blindness will use to have everything read out loud on the screen, including emails, text messages, websites. They can connect it to what's called a refreshable Braille display, a digital Braille display. So if they also read Braille, anything that's on their screen, whether again, any of the things I mentioned, email messages, websites, can also pop up for them in real-time Braille for them to be able to feel and read with their fingers while also having that information read out loud to them. There are certain gestures like two-finger tap to select to activate, right finger swipe for moving through a menu, left finger swipe backwards to moving backwards, and really a lot of custom gestures that individuals learn how to use in order to use screen readers. There's other types of text-to-speech that we can use for individuals who want to choose what to have read out loud on the screen, who do have vision and may either due to low vision, dyslexia, learning disability, cognitive needs, literacy needs, they may want to choose what text to have read out loud to them. And so that's one of the things that we're going to show to you today on our devices, along with some of the text customizations and other ways that you can access your devices. Before we get into the screen reading, I'm tapping on, I did that a little fast. I'm going to tap on display and text size. Now, within the display and text size settings, I've chosen to have bold text and larger text on. At 50, I have naturally aging eyes and I do wear glasses. And sometimes the text that's just already as default on my device is too small for me to read or that I prefer to read. And so I turn on larger text and you can see that you can increase the size pretty large. And this applies in text messages and other parts of the device, which can be helpful. I also choose to have bold text and show the borders and labels when that's available. That can be really helpful on websites or apps that have particular labels or buttons that may stand out a little bit easier to see. I also choose to have increased contrast on. So when I turn that off, you can hopefully see on my screen that it's not as contrasting. And when I turn on increased contrast, you can see how that makes a difference. Differentiate without color can be helpful for someone who may be colorblind, so that you don't want to rely solely on color to convey important information like in charts and graphs. Smart invert, we'll see if this actually works while I am reflecting my screen. It should give the opposite contrast here. It did, great. So there's smart invert and classic invert. If you only want the text to be inverted, meaning the opposite, white on black or black on white, depending on what type of website or document you may be looking at online, sometimes it's already opposite contrast. I think of websites specifically like about astronomy. Sometimes it's already dark and it may invert it the other way. But it will not invert the pictures, which tend to look ghostly when you have that. But that may be a preference. And so classic invert will also invert the colors of pictures. There are color filters to choose from, which can be really helpful for someone who likes cover overlays or a warmer screen. So there's lots of different options in the color filters that you can choose. And then in the top left, I'm going to tap on that arrow to go back to my accessibility settings. Now with hover text is a way to display a large view of text, whether it's on a website or in this menu, and you can choose at the top of the screen, the bottom of the screen, you can see, you can change everything from the font style to the size. This again can be really helpful for some individuals who prefer a specific font style. Oftentimes individuals with learning disabilities, low vision and or cognitive needs will choose a different type of font like Avenir Next, for example, because the small or lowercase a's and e's are the same as they learn to write them, as opposed to the A that you might see like in Arial, the lowercase a in Arial. Sometimes it's just a personal preference as to what font they may want to read information in. And if I turn on hover text, you can see this little icon here showed up on my screen. And when I activate it, then whatever I hover over is showing up at the top of my screen there. And again, that can be docked at the top or the bottom. And this will also work on websites or anything else that you have pulled up. You can see that at the top, it's showing default font. And I chose these colors. I chose white font on black background with a red border. That can all be customized. And of course, you can also turn it off very easily. Many of these accessibility features, instead of having to come into the accessibility setting to turn them on, if I scroll all the way down on the right-hand side to the end of my accessibility menu, You can see the option there for accessibility shortcut. So I can turn or check off certain accessibility features that I know I'm going to use often and put them on my shortcut. Now you can see at the top of the screen, it says triple click the top button for, and that is going to be the gesture that I can use to turn on any of these features that I have that you can see are checked off on my quick accessibility shortcut. And this is all personal preference, whichever settings or accessibility features you want to use or someone that you want to help use can be on this quick shortcut so they don't have to keep coming back into the settings to turn them on or off. And so I'll demonstrate what that looks like. I'm just going to hit my top button, 1, 2, 3. And now this menu for my accessibility shortcuts pops up. And I can use any of these accessibility features that I put onto that quick shortcut menu, such as Smart Invert. And it will automatically, and this again will work anywhere I'm on the iPad, email, website, text messages, etc. It's a quick and easy way for me to access the menu for the features that I need at any given time. And that one in particular is one that I turn on and off. I don't have my phone or iPad set to dark mode, but there are definitely times during the day where my brain is fatigued or my eyes are fatigued, or it's just too much brightness, and I choose to have inverted colors. So that's why I keep it on my quick accessibility shortcut. Now in read and speak, this is one of the ways, there's several, which hopefully we'll get to many of them today. One of the ways that you can have text read out loud on websites, messages, emails, all of those great things. There's an accessibility reader that we can use, but there's also two other ways, speak screen and speak selection. What I like about this is right above each of these features, it does tell you what the gesture is and how to use it. Hopefully, you'll have this recording to go back to and try it yourself as well. Apple has a lot of great videos on YouTube if you're a self-learner and you like to use videos. And Travis and I, as we are helping people utilize their devices, we help them set these features and learn how to use them as well. So when you turn on speak selection, I do want to point out that by default, this is turned off. So if you want to have this just running in the background so that you can choose to have text read out loud at any time, you just simply need to turn it on. And it's not going to start speaking on you. It's not going to start doing anything. You have to do the gesture. It just kind of hangs out in the background, and you know that you can have text read out loud when you need it to. For the highlighting, you can have words and sentences or just one or the other. I like to choose a background color, but you can also have those sentences underlined. And for the highlight colors, you have options. I choose yellow and blue. Once again, that's really personal preference for someone based on their particular needs. Now that I've turned it on, I'll demonstrate it. Actually, I'll go to Chrome. So if we're on a website and we want to have information read out loud, I'm just going to go to our Smart Living page here. So we turned on select to speak, and that means we can select the text to have read out loud by tapping and holding on the screen. And I can move these little blue bookmarks here to select the text. And then you can see in the middle of the menu, I can choose speak. After I've chosen speak, that will also become my pause button if I want to pause the text.
Empowering independence through technology. At ARC Human Services, we believe technology should be an everyday tool that empowers people to live more independently, safely, and meaningfully.
So it's nice that it highlights the text as it's reading. You can choose the voices as well. And I just want to say the built-in voices on all of our devices now, thankfully, have come so far and no longer sound robotic. I just have so many folks, because I've been working in this industry for so long, from where it used to be so robotic that children and adults alike did not like to use it because it just sounded like a robot, unless they preferred that type of voice, of course. But now everything is very natural sounding. There's a lot of AI voices available and a cappella voices. So you can try the voice first to see what it sounds like. And there's so many to choose from. You can see the little play button next to them. The Siri voices and other voices are really great voices. Ava Enhanced and Alex are really great voices in addition to the Siri voices. And you can change the rate and the pitch and the speed. So if it's reading something too fast or reading something too slow, you can come here and adjust that, and that's how it's going to read everything thereafter. Now you can also see there's other languages, something else that I really appreciate. So if someone is going to a website and wants to have it read out loud in another language, all they need to do is change the voice and the language that they want to have it read out loud. That's really incredible access when we think about just the service provision that a lot of us provide and being able to communicate with other individuals, whether it be for important documentation or any of those things. Really great that this is something that's built in along with the translation apps that's on all of our phones now for real-time translation of conversations. Doesn't certainly replace an interpreter, whether it be for a language or sign language, but having instant access for additional clarification and communication is certainly helpful. Now, again, there's many accessibility features, but due to time and wanting to make sure that we get to some of the apps and also for Travis to have his time with Android, I'm just going to go through and talk about a few. So a switch control, if you're not familiar, you can add the option to use a switch, a round switch, a small proximity switch, a hover switch, a pillow switch, a mouth switch. You can use a bite switch. You can use sit puff. Any way that an individual may need to use a switch to control their iPad, to use apps for communication, that is something that is built into the iPads and phones. Also touch, with assistive touch, if a certain gesture is difficult to do, you can turn on assistive touch, which shows up as this little square here. And these are some of the main things that I've put on assistive touch, and this can be customized. So app switcher, for example, if you don't have the button still on your iPad, it's a swipe up gesture often in order to close out all the other apps, which you should do every now and then to keep your iPad and phone running fast, or to get from one to another. That might be a difficult gesture for somebody, or double tap could be difficult. So you can come in here and customize gestures or touch features that you need to in order to access the iPad easier. And you can see at the bottom, you can create a new gesture. So for example, maybe someone uses a fist and they need to use swiping with the fist to get through a page. There's just so many ways that you can add additional support before adding a switch or an adaptive mouse or an adaptive keyboard. There are ways that you can change the physical access right within the accessibility features, along with eye tracking and head tracking, which is phenomenal. So when you think about some of the ways that you can use gestures in head tracking or eye tracking, and also voice control. If you haven't used voice control, it's a little bit different than asking Siri to do something for you, which is also very cool. And you can change the name of Siri to a name that's easier to say, or just out of personal preference, or not setting off everybody else's phone, similar to some of the other voice assistants we use every day. But with voice control on, you can use your voice to say certain commands in order to navigate as well. So if I tap on commands as an example, you can see just some of the basic commands that you can say, like open app switcher, or go to the internet, or open this app. And with dictation, you can also use any of the phrases that you need when composing an email or a document. So there's text editing, insert phrase, insert line, and deleting. And once again, you can create your own commands in order to use with voice control. So I'll demonstrate briefly. If I turn on voice control, you can see the numbers that pop up that I could use to say, but I'm going to say go home. 15. Go home. Open Chrome. Show grids. 21. Click 8. Stop listening. So stop listening and start listening are some of the quick and easy ways, or you can say stop voice control, but really you could see that you can use your voice to navigate, to open websites, to get to places without even touching the iPad in any way. So a lot more options in voice control as opposed to just using Siri for support, which can be really incredible for access. Some options under hearing devices as well. Being able to have haptic feedback, flash alerts if someone is knocking or if the phone is ringing or someone is sending a text message. Being able to turn on closed captioning when they're available and also change the style. So you can have large text, you can choose your own style and background colors, etc. for captioning. You can choose to use personal voice and shortcuts. In keyboards and typing, you can also use hover typing, similar to the hover text from when you're reading, offering access to keyboard shortcuts, sticky keys, and also being able to turn on typing feedback. So if you like to hear your words read out loud to you or the letters read out loud to you while you're typing, you can turn that on as you need it as well. Guided access can be really helpful if you're working either in an educational environment or some type of teaching environment where you may be teaching someone to use particular features of the iPad or apps, and you don't want them to be able to get out during that particular session to go out and use social media or use another app. You want to keep them focused. You can use guided access to keep them focused for a particular amount of time and set timers, which can be really helpful. So that's a brief overview. Again, we could go certainly more and more in depth, but I want to go out to the apps to show you a few apps for today as well. Now, one of the built-in apps that changed from being an accessibility feature on the iPads is the magnifier, which also now has a reader. So on my home screen there, you can see the icon for the magnifier app. Looks like a little magnifier. I'm going to tap on that. Now with the magnifier, I'm just hovering over a pamphlet here for ARC Human Services, and you can see that you could use the magnifier to zoom in. Once again, this can be helpful for typical documents. It could be helpful for menus. You can also choose to have your iPad or phone on a stand, and you could have this magnifying a board like a whiteboard during a meeting or instruction in a classroom. You could have it zoom in really anywhere that you need to be able to read, maybe at a fast food place if you're waiting in line and you can't read the menu that's up ahead, you can use the magnifier. And you can see at the bottom, sorry, I'm a little bit shaky because I don't have it in a stand right now. You can use the capture in order to have this read out loud to you. So it will capture it, and then you can see reader mode is available. And that's the same reader mode that you can choose within the iPad on websites and such as well. So I'm going to tap reader mode. Now in reader mode, in the top right, things are customizable. You can choose dark mode, you can choose a color background, etc. And you can have the information read out loud.
Always looking forward. Since 1952, ARC Human Services has been at the forefront of supporting people with intellectual and developmental disabilities to lead independent lives.
One of the other great apps that we love to show that we're huge fans of is called Can Plan. So on the left-hand side of my screen there in the middle, you can see the words CAN, C-A-N, and then Plan, P-L-A-N. And I'm going to tap on All Tasks. Can Plan is a really great app and free. Everything that we're showing today is free, that you can utilize to set up for yourself or for someone else in order to remember step by step how to do a specific task or activity, whether it's activities of daily living or activities at work. And they're all customizable. I'm going to show you one of their built-in ones. These are just 3 of the built-in ones that come with the app when you get it. I'm going to tap on Wash Clothes. Now, when it opens up to wash clothes,
wash clothes,
That can be someone who's human narrating it and audio recorded from a person speaking it, or it can be the built-in text to speech. And this can be a picture or a video. So it can be customized naturally to the environment where the individual is, whether it be work or home or out in the community. It can also be them in the particular picture or video. Some of you may find this helpful for your own family members, perhaps. But the other neat thing is, well, a couple of neat things. It's really user intuitive. It's not difficult to use. So if I hit the plus in the bottom left to add a new task, naturally at the top, you can enter the name for the task and you can tap to add a step. And when you add a step, it's just a picture or a video. You can take them ahead of time or you can take them in the moment. You could take pictures ahead of time at someone doing something to then go ahead and create one of these tasks. And you can tap on the microphone to record your voice and tap at the bottom to type in any description that you would want to read or have read out loud. And you can see that you can also schedule the task. So if this is a task that's going to happen the same time every day or twice a week, you can schedule it to pop up as a reminder, it's time to do such and such, and then it can walk them through step by step. This can also be really helpful for things like recipes and cooking. Again, any of those hygiene routines or activities at work or tasks, even things that they like to do for fun that but might forget how to do. So again, whether it's someone with a disability or someone that we're supporting who might be aging and might forget how to do something due to Alzheimer's or dementia, that can be really helpful to consider an app like this to support them as well, especially where it can pop up and remind them to do something at a particular time, like take a medication or something of that nature. Within the accessibility settings and apps, there is the option of the health app where you can go ahead and set reminders for taking medications or keeping track of important health data and also fall detection, things of that nature. So you can really get customizable with some of the health settings as well, whether it's on your device or if you wear a wearable like a watch that would sync to it to help keep track of important health data, biometrics, and things of that nature as well. Now, Seeing AI is another app that is free. Seeing, SEEING, AI for artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence certainly progressing at a rapid pace and in some very positive ways supporting individuals. And with that particular app, whether it be for someone with low vision or cognitive needs, you can have things read out loud like menus or signs. You can also have things described to you. I'll just show you the reading mode real quick again to compare it.
reared, always looking forward. Since 1952, our human services has been at the forefront of supporting.
So the other modes in Seeing AI include things like scene description, taking a picture and describing the scene if you're out and about in the community or you're in a restaurant or a meeting. It can also identify people as you train it to identify people. So I had one individual that I worked with who lost more and more vision over time until they were legally blind. And sometimes they would recognize the voices of folks who are coming into the room and know who's there without them having to ask, them to identify themselves and so forth. But as they started attending meetings and it was the same people coming, they could use the app in order to take a picture and recognize that individual. And then they could just, at future meetings, scan the room with their device and it would let them know who's there. So it can also do money recognition. There's other types of apps for that as well, to identify currency if in several different countries, including the US, which again can be really helpful for someone who can't see the bill that might be handed back to them, when they're getting change or they're purchasing something. They often rely on someone who is low vision or blind would often rely on someone telling them that it's a $1 bill or $20 bill, for example, in their hand. And then they would fold it a particular way to put in their wallet or purse so that when they take it out later, they know what they're giving to someone to make a purchase. But they have to rely on someone being honest as far as giving them back the change. And so that can be helpful to have money identification and scene identification. And that's all built in within that free app, Seeing AI. Show a couple more, and then I'll hand it over to my colleague, Travis. Be My Eyes, I'm not going to open Be My Eyes, but it's a really phenomenal app where you can volunteer as a volunteer for Be My Eyes, which I do. I just got a call, ironically, just a couple days ago. And you can also be a user of Be My Eyes. So it is a large network of volunteers. And someone, if you were a volunteer, for example, could call you if they needed help with navigation. Maybe they're on their daily route. And once again, they may be blind or have low vision or cognitive needs. They might be on their daily route and suddenly there's construction they didn't expect, and now they have to go a different way and they're not quite sure, they're disoriented. They may call someone for support. They might be shopping and need support. Of various reasons they may call someone for support. Maybe they're in a crowded airport and they need help reading, where their flight is if it's delayed and so forth. There are other apps that are not free that provide this service, like Aira, AIRA. And some of the differences, just so that you're aware, if you haven't used an app or a service like this, Be My Eyes is all volunteer. They're not trained individuals. It's out of the kindness of their hearts. But that also means that you want to make sure that you or individuals that use this, that you might be supporting, know not to open important confidential documents, for example, in front of someone that might be supporting them, and not to expose them in certain ways. So it's a really, really wonderful app. It's won so many awards. It really does do phenomenal, amazing, good things for people, but we always have to make sure that we're safe with any of these. Where Aira, AIRA, is a service that is very similar, but does cost money, but sometimes it can be paid for by funding options. And those are trained individuals and they're screened and they're vetted, but there's a cost to it. Time timer. If you have had the privilege of using the physical time timer, which is similar to like an egg timer or a classroom timer, this is the app where you can set a couple quick go-to timers if you want to. So you can do it won't go to my timer list for some reason when I'm demonstrating, but you can set just a 5-minute timer instead of a 1-hour timer. And whether you need to take a break or take a walk, or you need to focus for a particular amount of time before transitioning to another task, or if you are someone that is neurodiverse, perhaps ADHD or autism, and you have what's called time blindness, and someone tells you you have 5 minutes to do something and you think you have all the time in the world, and then suddenly you're late. So time timer, along with some other built-in alerts right into the clock, and other types of apps that you have on your devices, can be a really good one to use. And sometimes having that visual, bright, big visual can be helpful as opposed to a countdown or along with the countdown. For AAC, augmentative and alternative communication, there are, you probably know if you work with individuals who need support with communication for any reason, know that there are hundreds of apps out there. There's probably like the top 10 that people often hear about, like TouchChat and ProLoco and a few others. But they often do cost money and do take time to get acquired or purchase. So if you are working with individuals who need support with communication now, either symbol-based or text-based, there are 2 free options that actually are very robust and come with phenomenal customer support, user tutorials, and some just a really great access to communication immediately. The one that is text-based, so for someone who is literate, might be losing the ability to speak over time due to a medical condition or a disability, but they would be able to use a text-based communication app. Speech Assistant is a good option. You can see when you open it, it automatically opens up to a lot of different categories and also phrases. These are all customizable, so you can save specific phrases, including what their address is, what their name is. So if they're going to use public transportation and want to communicate this quickly, if they want to communicate different things for medical reasons, phrases, all types of reasons, naturally, that just like you and I would want to communicate things that we say often. So that is a really great option for a text-based AAC app that is free, that is Speech Assistant. Once again, just in case you didn't hear it at the beginning, we will be sending you the recording and a handout that has a link to all of these apps and features. The symbol-based one is called WeaveChat in the bottom right of my screen. And WeaveChat, went back up to my settings. WeaveChat does allow you to choose a lot of different things to set up going into it, including how many icons, the color and size of the icons, a lot of great things. And once again, Weave Chat has immediate customer service that you can access, video tutorials, and other great ways to start using Weave Chat right away. And two more that I'll mention real quick, just based on our time before handing it over to Travis. In the bottom left of my screen, on the apps, you can see Microsoft Office Lens and Adobe Scan. Now, both of these apps are very similar and free, but do just in a slightly different way. So both of them will scan any paper documents. You can have either of these apps or both. I have both on your device, Android or iPhone. And you can hover over a paper document. So maybe it's a document you get at work, or it's a worksheet or handout in a classroom type environment. For whatever reason, you want to scan that document to save it for later, to have in your files, whether it be Microsoft or Google, or to have read out loud later, and to be able to mark up and to search it. Now, there are a lot of scanning apps available out in the app stores. These two particular apps are different because they have what's called OCR. And in this particular case, that stands for optical character recognition. And what that simply means is that when it scans the document, unlike other scanning apps, it's not just going to be a picture of it. It's going to run that OCR, recognize the text, and it's now going to be saved wherever you decide to save it as an accessible, searchable document. And that's really important when you're working with individuals who do use screen readers or do use text to speech, because that's the way they're going to be able to have it read out loud. If you're working with learners in the classroom, that's the way they're going to be able to use other technology to highlight the text, write on it, or type into it, use their voice to type into it. Those are different ways that they're going to be able to use it because you've done that OCR, that accessible optical character recognition, to make it an accessible, searchable document. And because they're free, why wouldn't you? Microsoft Office Lens also has built-in immersive reader. So as a quick side note, one of our future webinars is going to be the built-in phenomenal accessibility features in Google and Microsoft, including laptops. And they have an amazing thing called immersive reader. So immersive reader is built into Office Lens so that you could start by customizing the text, the colors, and having it read out loud right away. Or you could save it to your Microsoft Office documents to pull it up later as PDF, Word, etc. Adobe Scan also lets you do those things, but Adobe Scan is one of the easier ones if you are more of a Google user. Adobe Scan will automatically gives you the option to share it through email and Google Drive. You can also share the ones through Microsoft Lens, through Office and email and so forth. But I think that's a great overview of a good handful of apps. Again, most of the apps that I showed are available on both the iPhone, iPad, and Android devices. The one that we're waiting to get put on to Android that a lot of people like to use is actually CanPlan. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen here. CanPlan, ironically, was built at a university by some students for a particular group of students and individuals, and has just grown exponentially over the past few years. I've used it for a long time, and I reached out to them. So we'll see. Maybe they'll be able to get it onto the Android Google Play platform as well. And I will hand it over to Travis, and please continue to put any questions in the chat if you would like to.
Well, hello, everybody. So we're going to do sort of a similar thing, but with Android here. We won't go nearly as in depth because, as you'll see, a lot of the same features that Diana talked about are also available on your Android device. Something to particularly keep in mind, even when you're researching your own accessibility tools for Android. There are a ton of different flavors of Android out there, so do keep in mind what you'll see today that I'm demonstrating. So my phone is a Samsung phone, and they have sort of their own unique spin on the Android layout. So do keep that in mind as you're navigating around these apps, your phones and all of that, and trying to find it. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen on my phone here. So we're going to scroll down here just a little bit to accessibility. So we'll click on accessibility and we see there are several different options that we have here. So we'll start right at the top and sort of just work our way down through the list, reviewing what options are there and showing all of that fun stuff. So we'll start right at the top of the list here with vision enhancements. So we can do things such as changing the entire theme of our phone to be high contrast. So if I wanted to, I could hit that right there. High contrast theme. So we can pick and you can choose and download different themes. Right now I have yellow and blue available. I'm going to select yellow and I'm going to hit apply. And you'll see it's applying that theme to my phone. And now as I'm navigating around, it changes all of those interactive things. So right now I'm changing the brightness on my phone. So the slider button has changed to yellow. So it provides different visual enhancements for folks that may benefit. So going back to accessibility, I'm going to turn that off for myself right now. So we're back into vision enhancements. And you can see whenever I turned on the high contrast theme, it also turned on high contrast fonts, as well as the high contrast keyboard. So you can select different kinds of high contrast keyboards as you're going through. And really finding, the one that suits your needs the most. We'll go ahead and we'll turn those off for the time being. We even have the ability to specifically highlight buttons. This next one is pretty cool to see. It's kind of hard to demonstrate a little bit, but this is called Relumino. So what this will do is will help folks who have difficulty differentiating between patterns, outlines, symbols, those sorts of things. It will actually automatically provide sort of an outline to those different things. So we'll go ahead and we'll turn on Relumino here, and you'll see, hopefully, well, it actually looks like this does not translate to the web at all. Because you are not seeing what I am seeing. So what it's doing, if you can see the different colored segments of the balloon, is it's putting a nice outline around each individual segment, which really makes each individual part of that really stand out and really easy to see. We also have the built-in color inversion. And you'll see here on color inversion, I have the option to have the color inversion shortcut. And there's a few different options that we have available to make any of these accessibility features, ready and accessible to us. So the first one is tap button and quick settings panel. So that will give you a button for that right up here in your quick settings. You can tap the accessibility button. So I'm going to set it to that right now, and I'm going to hit OK. And then if you see in the very bottom right of my screen, you'll see the little silhouette of a person. That is the accessibility button. Very similar to how Diana accessed it with 3 taps on the top of the iPad. You can have different accessibility shortcuts right there at your fingertips, easy and ready to use when you need them. We also have color correction for those that may be colorblind, and they go through the different types of color blindness as well as the intensity. And again, with everything else, you can add those to the shortcuts to turn off and on at your leisure. And then you can do things like reduce the animations. So if somebody really gets bothered by the simple animations of swiping up and down, of opening your menu, if it's too jittery or too fast for somebody, you can actually reduce the effects of those animations so that it's easier on folks' eyes. And kind of similar to what Diana was saying with the magnifier that was used to be in the accessibility feature for iPads, but is now its own app. On the Android side, it is still in the accessibility suite. So you'll see we have a whole section here on size and zoom. So we have magnification, magnifier, cursor thickness, all of that fun stuff. And you'll see I already have magnification added to my accessibility shortcut. And that will just open up the camera and work very similarly to how Diana's worked on the iPad earlier. Just making sure I get, yep, okay. So that's what we'll cover right now for vision enhancements. You'll see the next one down is called Talk Back. I'm not going to turn Talk Back on quite yet because it will get a little disorienting as I'm trying to speak at the same time. So what Talk Back is really great for is for folks with either blindness or low vision, that it will describe what is exactly on the screen. So you can tap on the screen and it will say, continue button or forward button or go back button and describe to you what is exactly taking place on the screen. If you're interested, I would recommend checking it out. It does get a little difficult if you're not familiar with all of the gestures, so I would recommend looking at those before you utilize TalkBack. And then we have hearing enhancements. And so we have real-time text, live transcribing, live captioning. So let's take a look at live transcribing. So what's great about live transcribing is it will show up directly onto your phone. The devices have gotten really good at recognizing speech patterns and making these easily accessible and able to see on your phone. You can even type responses directly to the transcription, as well as have an alert pop up if your individual name is spoken. So there's a lot of options and opportunities there for folks. And then there's also live captioning. So you can have essentially live captions in your everyday life. So if we turn this on, we should see here. We have a ton of different options. So you can have expressive captions. You can hide profanity, although I'm not sure why we would do that. But if somebody doesn't want to see that sort of language, that is a possibility there as well. You can access it either, again, using the accessibility button, or there are certain features you can use while you're in the middle of a call or something else that will activate that as well, such as hitting the side rocker on your phone. You can have it ask every time if you want to use live captioning on your phone call, or you can just have it set to work every time. So right now, if I turn it on, you'll see it set to ask every time to provide live captioning on a phone call. But if you want that feature to just always be on as you're making those phone calls, you just select the always button. I'm going to go ahead and turn live captioning back off for us here. You'll also see it has built-in hearing aid support. So if you have different Bluetooth compatible hearing aids, your phone essentially can connect directly with that, as well as cochlear implants and some other amplification devices. And again, it's just all about making it as easy and as accessible for folks as possible. Say somebody has different levels of hearing loss, or even hearing acuteness in their left versus their right ear. Here we can adjust the particular sound balance for if somebody's wearing headphones or earbuds or something, so that we're getting either a stronger or a weaker signal out of either the left or the right there. So we'll go down to interaction and dexterity. So there's a few cool things in here that I wanted to show folks. So the first one is tap duration. So a lot of folks, maybe if you're struggling with some shakiness, or some other fine or gross motor issues. Sometimes it can be difficult using a touch screen because if you shake a little bit and you accidentally bump the screen, sometimes you're touching buttons that you don't intend to touch. So what we can do here is we can set up a specific tap duration, in order for an interaction to be recognized as a tap on the device. It has to be held for so long. And you can go from 0.1 second, which is pretty much tap and it's going to work, all the way up to 4 whole seconds to holding that button to interact with the screen. So you're reducing those unintentional screen taps, potentially relieving some frustration that you may be experiencing there. Along the same boat here, you can even have it ignore repeated touches. So again, just supporting, those fine motor skills. You can have sticky keys, slow keys, all sorts of different options that exist for folks there. And very similarly to the Apple devices, you can have the text on your screen read aloud to you. And to do so, it works very similarly to the Apple devices. You select the content that you want to have read aloud. I will say in my particular flavor of Android, it is hidden behind one more context menu. So we select that and then hit read aloud.
Services, we believe technology should be an everyday tool that empowers people to live more independently, safely, and meaningfully.
And then you can have any content on your screen read aloud to you. As well as you can, if you can see the bottom left-hand side of my screen, you can utilize text-to-speech just on the native keyboard apps as well. So if I hit that little microphone, and you'll see it is now typing into the Google search everything that I am saying. We'll turn that back off. So there are a few other apps here. I'm going to open one that is called Lookout. So what Lookout will do is will visually describe whatever the camera happens to be pointed to. It did just tell me that this was pointed at the floor, which I can kind of see where it's getting. It's pointed at my desk right now, but I've got the power outlet right there and everything. And then we also, apparently I didn't finish setting up my reminders app like I thought I had. So for folks that may struggle with scheduling and different tasks throughout the day, different routines, to-do lists, all of that fun stuff, you can accomplish with Task Reminder. So you can add different reminders, you can set a specific time to get that reminder, as well as if you need that reminder to repeat for so long, you can easily set that up. You can review any of your completed reminders, and even if you need to just set a reminder to return somebody's phone call. It's just a very simple, helpful tool to help folks navigate sort of their everyday life. Okay, so that will go as far as the accessibility for the Android devices. Again, it's very similar to the Apple devices. A lot of the same features and functionalities are available. It's just about finding exactly where in the menu or settings that those options exist.
Wonderful.
Stop sharing my screen here if I can figure out how to re-navigate to Zoom.
Awesome, Travis. Thank you. And I'm going to share one more time just so we can bring up the handout for folks to let you know that along with the recording, you will receive a handout with some of the links to the apps and accessibility features that we were talking about today. You can expect that within a week or so. We'll process the video, of course, to be able to share with everyone. We'll also be posting it on our website. We have a lot of future webinars planned, as I mentioned, for accessibility in Google and Microsoft, as well as some independent living using smart living tech, where we're going to take you into our smart living lab home and give some live demonstrations of some of the really cool technologies we have there. So if you're local, you can always go to our website and set up a time if you'd like to come take a tour at the smart home if you'd like to see the technologies and be immersed in the technologies in action. We also welcome folks to go to the website to schedule a time with Travis and I, whether you want to meet remotely or if you would like to schedule a time to meet in person for any type of assistive technology services. We're happy to communicate with you to do that also. We do have the chat open right now. If you would like to either type questions into the chat or if you would like to unmute yourself for a question or a comment, we are happy to take either for a few minutes before we conclude the webinar. We're happy that a lot of you could join us personally, we'll say virtually, to be able to attend live and participate live. Thanks so much. There's a lot of others who received the recording who registered, and we certainly understand during the workday or anything else that you might have going on, it can be hard to fit in live attendance. I don't see anything heading into the chat, so hopefully everyone learned something new that you may want to try out yourself, share with somebody that may benefit, share the recording, use the recording once you receive it in the handout, and please check out our social media and our events calendar on the website if you would like to attend or participate or sign up for any more of our future webinars and workshops that we'll be having in person as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon.